And we are live. Hello, everyone. Jana Martins here. It's 5:30 in Melbourne. And guess what? We are about to start our live discussion today. And I would love you to comment if you actually watching us in Australia or you're watching us in any other country. Please make sure you put it in the comments. So we know where you're watching us from, because we are actually still in the lockdown here in Melbourne, for those who doesn't know, and unfortunately stage 4 lockdown at the moment in Melbourne. But the good thing about the isolation, it's a great time to learn something new and also work to improve your online presence. I know it's a tough time for the job seekers out there. And that's why today's topic is really relevant. So, we all know that LinkedIn is a great place to look for a job, and essentially it's your online resume. But, how you can actually increase your chances to get hired via LinkedIn, apart of just filling your job description and so on. So this is today's topic. So we're going to dive in about increasing your chances to get hired through LinkedIn. And, because it's incredibly relevant topic during these times, please make sure you tag all your connections who actually need to hear this today. So before I'm going to pass it to the Andrew, just wanted to remind you that we are going live on LinkedIn and on YouTube at the same time. And so if you want to watch replay, so if you can't join us live today, you can actually watch the replay on YouTube. You just need to subscribe to my channel, or you can also follow Live with Jana hashtag on LinkedIn. So please ask as many questions live as you can, because we're here to answer your questions. And also, as usual, we will have a little giveaway at the end of the session for those who are asking the most interesting questions and participating in our live discussion. So I guess my first question would be, write down in the comments why you're actually interested in this topic. Why are you looking for a job at the moment, or you just want to know what sort of options there. So please write down in the comments why you're interested in today's topic. And I'm gonna pass it on to Andrew to introduce yourself. So Amit saying hello. Thanks, Amit. And oh my God, I'm sorry if I pronounced the names wrong. How would you pronounce it? Sorry. Hi.
Fine, man. Yeah.
Oh, look, no one can pronounce my Russian name anyway, so I'm not even gonna say my real name. So anyway, let's pass it on to Andrew. Andrew, please tell us about yourself a little bit and share a bit of insights what you do.
Sure. So, hi guys, I'm Andrew Murphy. I have spent most of my career working in and around technology. So I studied to be a software developer. I've been writing code as a career for most of that, but I've also been a leader in technology and run a lot of technology teams. And part of running a technology team is about finding and hiring great people. So I've been recruiting people for well over a decade now. And time again, I was seeing people who would send CVs in, people who would send profiles in that just weren't hitting the mark, that weren't exciting, that weren't getting them through to that next stage. And that for me was really kind of disappointing and frustrating as a hirer, because I knew I was missing out on people who were going to be a great fit for the role, but I just couldn't find how I could get through, and actually get to interview them. Because the thing with hiring is there's regularly 500-600 people who send their CVs in for a role, and finding a way to see all of them is just not possible. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how you can make sure that you're one of those people that get through that initial filter and go from those 500-600 to the 5 to 10 that actually get more than a few seconds of thought.
And, actually, my first question would be not about the recruitment process, but my first question would be actually about LinkedIn. Like, we talk about LinkedIn a lot, and a lot of people been advised to, look for jobs on LinkedIn. But Is LinkedIn actually the best place to look for a job?
It's a really important place. I wouldn't necessarily say best. I think it's up there, but it's really, really important. You know, not only is it a place where people advertise jobs, it's a place where people advertise themselves. You know, that's basically what your profile is. It's an advert for you. You're selling yourself, and you know the job adverts themselves are selling the jobs. But it's also a great place where people can communicate. It's a social network as well. So it's kind of the best of all worlds in that, you know, you can show and talk about yourself. The company can show and talk about themselves, and you can have conversations. So I think it's a wonderful place for doing that, and a wonderful place for reducing the barriers between the people who are looking for jobs and the people who are looking for candidates.
And we can see like this in incredible growth on LinkedIn recently, and how actually easy it became to connect with people on LinkedIn as well, because it's more interaction going on, more content. So I'm actually enjoying being on LinkedIn, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to get to know people. Like you and I met on LinkedIn. You know, we've never seen each other in person, but we met on LinkedIn. There's a great number of people who I've met on LinkedIn, and it's a wonderful place for finding people who share common interests. But it's also a great place for, you know, expressing your own interests and showing other people the things that you care about.
100%. And on this note, we actually want to ask you guys, when was the last time you updated your LinkedIn profile? Yeah, so we all know that you know, our LinkedIn profile needs to be up to date. But I'm obviously I can say I'm guilty myself. You know, you do something new, but you completely forget to put it on LinkedIn, and then you know, a few months later, you look at your profile and you realize like, oh, this thing is still there. I actually never updated that. And especially if you have a few social media channels, that's getting even more complicated.
It is, but you know, it's important to remember from the point of view of somebody who is looking for candidates that their LinkedIn profile is something you can access without having to go through them, and so it gets looked at a lot more regularly. You know, your CV, for example, your CV quite often is something that you give. It's something that you put out into the world. Whereas your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn pages are things that people go to without your interaction. And so it's even more important to keep up to date, because somebody could be looking at it at any point and you cannot control when they look at it. And so that's why it's even more important. You know, it's not like a CV where, you know, you've worked in a job for 2 years, you've not had to look at your CV in those 2 years, and you know, you're like, okay, it's time to get a new job, I'll update my CV. Like your LinkedIn profile is way, way, way more important than that.
And way more interactive as well compared just to the CV. And you know, we've all been taught millions of times to have a professional image and a great summary, list of skills, recommendation, like. But what recruiters are actually looking for in the screening LinkedIn profile? Like, what do you think your top tip then someone want to update the LinkedIn profile?
So the first thing to remember is what I said in the beginning, which is quite literally, I will get 500 to 600 CVs or 500 to 600 people that match my filter on LinkedIn, or 500 to 600 people who have applied to my job position on LinkedIn. And so there has to be a process that I go through that turns those 500 or 600 potential profiles into maybe 10 or 20 that I can dedicate time to. And that first process that I go through is something called thin slicing. And thin slicing is the technique which allows me to go, okay, I've got this huge thing that I need to go through. How do I narrow that down and reduce the number of people I'm looking at? So the first thing here is to make those skills, those things that are the minimum requirements for the job, as easy as possible to find, because that's going to be the first filter. The first filter is, do you actually have the skills that you need to perform this job? Because quite often people will apply for positions when they don't have the skills, because they're hoping for that next kind of step up, and that's great. And I want to get to those people, but I've got to maximize my time as somebody who's hiring and somebody who's recruiting. And if I can hire somebody who already has the skills that I need, then I'm going to maximize the return on my investment of time. So in regards to thin slicing, this is where we've got a really important question of where they sit on your LinkedIn profile. Are they before or after that little see more button?
And I guess that's a question for you guys. Have a look at your profile. And the Kafik actually just saying, I haven't updated for a long time, probably since I found my calling. I'm doing so much more than the profile shows. And I think that's a really common problem with everyone. We're doing actually so much more than our profile shows. And then we're surprised why people don't understand how great we are. We're just simply not showing it. So coming back to the see more section. So where is this section? So I can actually bring up the LinkedIn now. We can have a look.
Let's do that.
So that I can see where is the see more section as well. So here's my LinkedIn profile here. So
I think you've already expanded
I already
that.
Extended it.
Yeah. So if you reload that page, Anna.
Yeah, I'm reloading.
So this is really important, is reducing the amount of time that it takes for me to kind of go through that first filter. Here we go. Perfect. So we can see straight away that, there's only a few things that get shown before that see more link. And, if I literally have hundreds of CVs to go through, hundreds of LinkedIn profiles to go through, then I don't want to be clicking that see more link on everything. And so putting as much as possible before that to get through that thin slicing filter is really, really important. And this is why yours is really, really good, because I can see straight away what you do. Within that first sentence, bam, it's hit me in the face in what your skills are. I don't need to ask any further. But if I want to get more, I can click that see more and really go deep into the detail. So that, for me, is the first thing I always look for. Is that person giving me what I need straight away, or do I have to dig into it? Because if I have to dig into it, it gets put further down the list. I'll probably still look at it, but not if I found 10 or 20 people that hit that filter without having to click that link.
100%. So is there anything else you would really pay attention when it comes to just filling your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah. So the other thing that's really important as well is showing a bit of your personality. Once you've got through that initial filter, once you've actually gone through and yes, you've got the skills to do this job, have you shown me a bit of who you are? Because people don't just hire for skill set. Skill set is the first initial filter, but after that, we've got personality, and personality is so important. I don't want to build a team of robots. I want to build a team of human beings. I want to build a team of people who fit together and complement each other and work well together and have different opinions and different aspirations and different skills and different mindsets. I want to build a well-rounded group of individuals. And if I can't see your personality from your LinkedIn profile, then I can't make a judgment on if you're going to be what's called culture add. There was a lot of talk in the industry a while ago about the idea of culture fit, and I don't necessarily agree with that concept, because culture fit implies that you're trying to find somebody who is the same as everybody else in your organization. And that's not what we want. We don't want somebody that's the same as everybody else. We want somebody that complements and adds to our culture. And so by showing your personality on your LinkedIn profile, you're allowing me to realize, are you that somebody that is really going to add value to my team beyond your skill set?
And we have a question here. But these days, most of the ads list many skill set not relevant for the job. So how you decide what skills to put actually on this section?
Yeah, so there's two sides to this, and so this is something which is actually a bugbear of mine for the recruitment industry in general. Is we shouldn't be doing what I call a laundry list of skills in job positions, because at the end of the day, it scares people off. And, you know, I don't want to get into a too deep and heavy conversation, but actually when you look statistically, it scares women off more than men. Women feel like they have to meet 100% of all the skills in a job profile, whereas men tend to, on average, only feel like they have to fit 70% of the skills on a job listing. So I actually have a fundamental problem with putting all these skills on the job ad in the first place, which is you're disproportionately scaring women away. So that's my first thing.
I heard this statistics actually so many times, and I must say, like, sometimes, like, I look at some job descriptions and I'm like, whoa, like that's kind of matching, but the title kind of, if I look at, I don't know, the content creator job, and I feel like, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. And then the list goes on and I'm thinking like, I don't know if I can apply to the content creator job, even if that's what I'm doing for a living.
Yeah, and it happens because, you know, a recruitment consultant will ring somebody like me up and will say to them, tell me about your ideal candidate. And so they'll talk about their ideal candidate who has, 10 years of experience in 7 different things. And you're like, there's no way that somebody could actually fulfill this role because there's nobody in the world that has the time to have all of these skills. But they'll ask that question, what's your ideal candidate? And so that's why these things happen. But I wouldn't let that sway you away. I wouldn't let that scare you off because, you don't have to fulfill all of those skills. You don't have to match every single tick. So when I do job adverts, I always make sure that I separate the skills into a required and a desired section. Because, there is the fact that there are certain jobs that have certain skills that you just need to have in order to do the job. I'm sure, we're all comfortable with the idea that if you're running a nuclear power station, there's a certain minimum level of skill set that you need to do the job. So, but you don't necessarily have to have all of the skills. There's things you can learn on the job. And so I always recommend trying to find out which of the skills are required and which of the skills are desired. And this can actually also be something which, in regards to, a lot of the ads lists have many skills that are not relevant. I always advocate speaking to the person who's doing the recruiting. Always. For 2 reasons. The first reason is to solve this particular problem because there's so many laundry list of job skills out there. How do you know which ones are important? It's a really important thing to ask. But secondly, again, back to that from 500 CVs down to 20, if you've spoken to me, if your name has popped up on my LinkedIn, or I've spoken to you on the phone, or you've emailed me, when I then see your profile, or I see your CV, or I see you've applied for a job, you've instantly got more of my time. Because I remember your name and I remember who you are, and you've moved from being a series of letters on the page which spells your name out to an individual human being. And you've given yourself more chance of getting that job.
And I think it comes back to this simple psychology. There is a term as a mere exposure, as more we expose to something, as more we like it. Yes. And it's as simple as it is. If your name pop up somewhere else few times, it's already feel more familiar. And as a human being, as more we expose to something, as more it's familiar and as more we like it. It doesn't mean that you will get a job, but at least you went through this initial catching attention phase. So that probably will lead me to the next question. Would you recommend people to direct message recruiters or direct message like in general? So do you have any strategy about direct messaging people on LinkedIn?
So yes, 100% every single time without fail, find the person who's doing the recruiting and contact them. I honestly cannot stress how important that is because it really is one of the great ways to get you through that initial filter. Like you said, it doesn't guarantee you the job, but it definitely guarantees you more time than somebody who hasn't done that. And that's important. The best thing you can do when trying to find a job is be in front of somebody for as long as possible, be in their mind for as long as possible. Because like you said, you get this exposure increase and they start to like you as a human being. They start to understand you and they start to feel guilty about removing you from the process. I mean, you can use that to your advantage.
That's a good one. And look, I'm glad you actually mentioned it, because it's such a common thing. It's not only in recruitment, but it's anywhere in life. You know, then you just feel guilt, like, remove these friends from the friends list.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it works. A lot of the stuff, when I think about getting a job and I think about, CVs and LinkedIn profiles and covering letters, all of this stuff is basically a sales technique. The product you're selling is yourself. So I quite often look at, what do people do to sell products or services, and then say, okay, how does that apply to getting a job? You've got to give somebody confidence. You've got to get them to understand what they're getting. You've got to get them to understand the value of what they're getting. And that also puts you in really good place when you come to negotiate salary at the end of the day, because if they really understand the value of what you're giving, then you're in a much better place to negotiate salary. And value is, do you want to do this question first, and I'll
because I think it's such a relevant question. That's actually, Sandra, great that you asking this, because it's a question that I wanted to ask you as well. Because I'm sure there is people out there who DM recruiters but never get a reply. So, and any tips?
Call them. Call them. I find every single possible way to communicate with these people. Find their email addresses, send them DMs, try and find their phone numbers, stalk them, find out where they go and, do their shopping, and go and do your shopping next to them. I honestly just find every single possible way to connect with these people, because it's going to be important for how you get this job. It really, really could be, because it's how you turn yourself into a human being in their eyes.
But could it be the negative effect, like, then you overdo it? Is it such a thing of overdoing it?
If you have a real genuine reason, like if you can find some way to ask them a question, to seek clarification on something, for example, like the perfect example that we had earlier of, which of these skills are actually important, like that is a genuine reason to reach out to somebody. And I can't imagine anybody who has a genuine question asked of them is going to feel negative about somebody clarifying that.
I like that. That's a really good one. Yeah, because you see this list of the skills and you feel like, yeah, I can do all of this, but I'm not sure if I can do this like exact thing. Yeah, just reaching out and asking, like, how important for me to be able to do this to apply for this job.
Yep. Definitely.
And I guess the other question I have, maybe not related to direct messages as much, but often we see that people putting on a profile that they're actively searching for opportunities. Yeah. So, and now I think it's a really popular one. Then I see people, where is this hashtag, open to work hashtag, and people putting the circle with this hashtag.
Yeah.
And we often, a lot of advice going on there, make sure you put this hashtag, make sure you put you actively searching and so on. But I heard another opinion as well, that it looks a bit desperate. It looks too much. It looks like, you begging for a job. What's your opinion on it? Like, where is this border? Like, you need to show that you're available. But when on another side, like, some people for some reason can take it our way. So how you go about it?
I can see why that's something that could happen, the danger of appearing desperate. I mean, I would just quite simply say that I think pretty much everybody is always open to work. I think, there's very few people in this world that are so 100% happy with their role, their salary, the place they work, that they wouldn't be open to a discussion. Most of us are open to a discussion. And so I think quite simply it's not needed. To start with, if a recruiter reached out to me, I would always have the conversation, because you never know. It's always worth having that chat with somebody, because you might not be interested in this role, but then they'll learn about what roles you are interested in and would reach out to you in future. So I don't think it's needed. I also think there is a risk of it sounding desperate. Now, whether or not you worry about that is a personal problem. Like, if the fact is you could be desperate, like you could legitimately need a job, and I think it's, you know, depending on what type of job you're looking for and your own personality, it's up to you whether or not you want to make that open and available for the world to see. I wouldn't think negatively on it, but it would appear as a slight, oh, that's a bit interesting that they did that. So yeah, I would caution against it.
Yep. Okay. Sandra, I have another question. Also, I have started publishing articles on LinkedIn, 12 so far, but haven't got the engagement I want. And I think this helps increase the job project. Any feedback? I want to just mention something, because obviously I do content creation.
I was gonna say, surely this is perfect for you to talk about.
Yeah. But every time that I hear any question about engagement and that, you know, your content not getting engagement, the first question you need to ask, who is your audience? That's the first question you need to ask, because you can create absolutely the same content, but put it in front of different people and get absolutely different engagement. So that's my bit of it. Now, Andrew, what's about the job search?
I think that's really important, is thinking about why you're doing these articles, because the why as to why you're doing it will change the way that you do them. So if you're doing these genuinely to educate people like you, then the way that you'll structure the articles will be different. If you're purely doing them as a way to show how good you are to increase your job prospects, then the way you target them is different. So I think, you know, first of all, it's a case of deciding which one of those you want to do. Because if you're trying to hit multiple audiences with the same piece of content, you're going to be less successful than if you try and target one particular audience. So, you know, that's the first thing I'd say is, are you trying to educate people, or are you trying to advertise yourself? I would always go down the side of, you should always be trying to educate people, and the selling yourself comes as a nice side product to that, because, you know, it shows genuine interest, it shows genuine, you know, desire to help, which is something that's always, you know, a positive side of when I look at somebody's profile. Kind of back to that show your personality side of, you know, if you're posting articles, it shows me a bit about your personality, and it shows me a bit of who you are. In regards to not getting the engagement you want, I would, like Jana said, look at the audience. That's probably where you might be falling down, is trying to target multiple audiences with the same piece of content, and try and narrow that audience down as much as you can.
And obviously, all these articles, it's a part of creating your personal brand.
Yes.
And it's all about the strategy. Any content creation is about the strategy, you know, like who you're talking with, tagging people you want to talk with, sharing this article with people who might be interested. It's not you just post the article and let it sit. That doesn't really work like that. Even if, like, you know, we put this YouTube video on YouTube and just let it sit and hope it get engagement. It doesn't work like that anymore. Like maybe like 10 years ago it worked this way, but it doesn't work like this anymore. So you need to like look at the statistic and do like some strategy around it anyway. So we have so many questions coming up. It's a burning topic. If you want multiply hats in your previous role, like a test manager, portfolio manager, project detector, and you're looking a new role, how would you show this in your LinkedIn profile?
So the first question I would ask is, what role do you want? Because that's what you should be prioritizing in your LinkedIn profile. So I feel like a lot of people kind of don't really know what they want, and so will kind of take this scattergun approach to trying to find a job, where they'll just go and they'll apply for 15 different jobs, and they'll use the same profile, they'll use the same CV, they'll use the same covering letter, you know, they'll use the same interview technique. And they haven't tailored it to a particular role. And if you've done multiple roles in the past, that's not a problem. But when you're doing your profile think about the roles that you want, be strategic, only apply for a particular set of roles at once, and tailor your profile to that particular role. So bring those aspects out of your previous roles, and try and be more strategic in the jobs you're applying for, which allows you to invest the time into getting the profile specific for those types of roles.
So that I guess Randy is commenting as well. So that if I show my test management experience on LinkedIn profile, then recruiters usually ignore me for project management role and vice versa.
Yeah, I'd honestly say, Randy, pick one. I think it's really hard. It's kind of like the audience thing we were talking about a minute ago. Of if you've got a piece of content, and at the end of the day, your LinkedIn profile is a piece of content. If you're trying to target it at multiple audiences, you're not going to be doing the best job at targeting both of them in one go. So I would always say stick with one, double down on that, focus on that as best as you can, try your hardest to get a role in that place. If that doesn't work, draw a line in the sand and say, it isn't working, I'm going to shift and I'm going to double down on this other strategy, this other role, and try and get a job in that area. If you're trying to target two things at once, you're not going to hit the right marks on either of them. And
that's a great example, Andrew, because that's pretty much how it works in the marketing and then any business world as well. Because as soon as you're trying to sell the same product to few people, then you're not actually solving anyone's problem. And I can relate to Randy in the way that it can be sometimes really doubting and scary to pick one. As self-employed, I'm definitely experiencing it because you're too scared to narrow down because you're worried that you miss some business coming in. Yeah. It's absolutely the same thing, but you understand, but you really need to concentrate on one target audience, at least do the 90-day project before you try to target everyone. And usually people who really nail this target audience, they never look back.
Yeah,
they actually never look back.
You found that niche, you found that thing that you're really, really good at. So one of the best pieces of advice, I think it was Scott Adams, the guy who created Dilbert, but I could be wrong in that. He talks about your intersection. So he talks about doubling down, finding two things that you're good at, and the intersection of those two things is probably your unique ability. So for me, for example, I'm a software developer, I'm a technologist by trade and by training, but I'm also really good at teaching soft skills. So I'm really good at teaching communication. I'm really good at teaching influence. I'm really good at coaching and mentoring people. Those two things by themselves aren't unique, but the combination of those two things is actually quite a unique pairing. And so that's what I make my career on, and that's what I make my business on, is the pairing of those two things that by themselves are not unique, but together are unique.
100%. Again, works in business same way. You can be really good in marketing and like skating, and suddenly you just start promoting, do marketing for all the skate companies.
Yes, and it's like I said earlier.
Narrow, but it works.
A lot of these skills in finding a job are very analogous and very related to the skills of finding business, because you're selling yourself. And so the skills and the techniques and the things that people do to sell products and sell services, we can look at those and go, how can we apply them to ourselves? How can we apply them to selling ourselves? Which is basically what a job interview is.
And Amit actually have a question directly to you. Ooh. So I work with the teams to help them cope with the stress and work on communication and collaboration. So I'm interested in learning about Andrew's current work. Please share more of what you do at Pillar Leaders.
Sure. So it's basically what I just said a minute ago. It's about that intersection between, technology based skill sets. So, it doesn't have to be my background in history, software development, but, I've done work with accountants and actuaries and, people who have a very theoretical, technical mindset, and helping them understand the value of investing time into the softer skills, into things like communication and stress and collaboration. So, I run workshops and coaching events for people who have a technical background to help them understand why these things are important and to upskill them in doing those, in improving those particular skills.
And, I actually gonna go a bit back because we start we touch so many interesting things here, but I want to just go back a little bit to the LinkedIn profiles. Yeah,
sure.
LinkedIn profiles. And I think another part of the LinkedIn profile that's often really important is recommendations. We didn't touch on that one. So what's your opinion about gathering recommendations? Is it important? Who would you gather recommendation from? So do you have any top tips about it?
Sure, I do. Get as many as you can. Job done, finished. No, I think they're important, and I also want to talk about the perfect type of recommendation. And this is a tip, and it's about the difference between responsibilities and impact. And when you're getting a recommendation, it's important that people talk about the impact you made, not the responsibilities you had. So I think we've got an image on that.
We have an image of it, I think, somewhere. Yeah, here we go.
So, Jana, what do you think the people are looking at in this photo?
Oh my God, to the crater. I don't know.
Yeah, the big hole in the ground.
Crater?
The crater.
Hole, yeah.
Yeah. But what makes the crater? A tiny, tiny little meteorite. They're not looking at the tiny meteorite that hit the ground. They're looking at what that meteorite did, which is the huge crater. And so this is the difference that I want to make really clear with this is what's important here. What makes the big change in this is not what the thing was. It was probably a tiny little meteorite that was a few centimeters in diameter, but the impact that it made, in this case, quite literally, the impact it made vastly outweighed what it was. And the same is true of you in your role. The responsibilities that you had were not the impact that you made. An example of this is the difference between saying, I was responsible for a team of 4 software developers. Great. Okay. That's your responsibility. You could say something instead like, I worked on continually upskilling a team of 4 software developers to help them continually add value to the business. Or, I ran a small strike force of software developers to prove out a new revenue line for the business. That's the difference between responsibilities and impact. Not just what you did, but what that impact was on the business. What change did the business go through because of what you did? And this is important in your description, but it's doubly important in the recommendations that you get from people. If somebody gives you a recommendation, they need to talk about the change that you made as opposed to what you did and what your responsibilities were.
I sometimes do this, cheating technique, and I actually ask people exactly what I want them to put in the recommendation.
Yes.
And I think it's usually makes the people's life easier as well.
Yes.
If someone actually asks me to write recommendation and they give me at least some bullet points, can you mention this, this, and this? I actually feel more willing to do the recommendation because I don't like I don't like writing. And for me, sit down, write the recommendation, I need to put my thoughts together. But if someone actually sending me some bullet points, can you mention this, this, and this? It's no brainer because
they've done the hard work for you.
I work with this person, if I don't like mentioning something, I won't mention it anyway. But then at least they told me what kind of recommendation I'm looking for. So I don't know, I would recommend everyone to recommend.
Yeah, I agree.
Recommend people what they want to put them to their recommendation.
Yeah, and it also saves that awkward situation where somebody gives you a recommendation and it's not exactly what you wanted, and you've got to go back to them and say, actually, can you change this recommendation? It gets a little bit awkward. Whereas if you're letting them know the bits you want them to pull out, it makes their job easier and gets you the recommendation you actually want.
And and also you can give them all those tips that you just mentioned. So you can ask them, can you please write about the change I made? And you can probably even mention the particular project you did on your job and say, remember, like this time there was like this deadline or something. Can you write something about my recommendation? So you can, I think specific examples always work the best with the content or with, with recommendation. Then you reading the particular example that make you feel like this person actually like did it, when it's just a general great communication skill and great leadership skills kind of thing.
So one of the best recommendations I ever got was somebody who came to me after a training course I did for them on what it means to be a leader in technology. And they came to me afterwards and said, this has changed the way that I view leadership. I've spent the last 6 months spending every evening and weekend trying to understand every technical thing that I could possibly understand, because I thought my responsibility as a leader was to be able to answer every question my team gave me. I now understand that my job as a leader is not to answer their questions, but to give them the framework and the structures so that they can answer their own questions. How is that as a recommendation?
Perfect.
That is perfect. This was my state before. This was my state after. Oh, and Andrew did that for me.
And he actually, in this recommendation, exactly explain what you do as well.
Yeah. Perfect.
So
I love that recommendation. I use it everywhere.
I always try to take video recommendations as well.
That's a good idea.
But that's a next step from there.
Yeah.
But so we hitting the 40 minutes.
Oh.
I know. Time just flies like this. I think there's one more thing we want to mention. We have a question for you guys who's still with us. Do you have your community involvement on your LinkedIn profile? There you go. So here's a question for you guys. Andrew will please make sure you comment, because remember we have a giveaways for the best comments. And and Andrew, so why it's important and what kind of community involvement we can put on there?
So this ties in a little bit to that show your personality side of, I don't just want somebody who has the skills. When I'm looking at hiring somebody, I want somebody that's going to bring to the organization more than just the base level of skills. I want somebody that's going to challenge me, somebody that's going to add to the culture of my organization. And community involvement is one of the ways in which I can see that. I get an understanding of who you are as a human being, as opposed to who you are as a LinkedIn profile. So there's, this could be anything from talking at meetups to doing online video to, I'm sure there's some community things you've been involved in, Jana.
Yes, and actually, I just want to mention about it. I put the post literally on Monday. I was actually going to bring it up. Here we go.
Oh, there we go.
This is my post. I did a podcast where I've been asked about my work with Big Brother Big Sisters, and it's a non-for-profit organization. And I did a quick post about it on Monday. So didn't even overthink too much, just said about it. I'm going to talk in this podcast about my involvement with a non-for-profit organization. So it's already get over 2,500 views.
Perfect.
And just recently I saw, I think today, I was going to show you guys, but maybe it's too many. I have too many. Here we go. Congrats, your post has been trending in non-for-profit. So
perfect.
So talking about actually hashtags, but non-for-profit, great hashtag. So I've been trending in it, just as simple because everyone likes hear the story.
Yeah, definitely. I think, showing anything about what you do outside of work is just so crucial to getting me to have interest in you as a candidate. And anything in terms of, we've got somebody who's just said, they do scouts for community. Even that is great. Anything that shows what you're doing, I think is really useful. I'd even consider putting that as in your LinkedIn profile. You can do not only can you do jobs, but you can also do kind of not-for-profits and community as jobs in your LinkedIn profile. So I'm part of the Electronic Frontiers Association's policy group, which is a not-for-profit. That actually is in there as a job in my list of jobs in LinkedIn, because it's so important to me that that's seen as part of who I am and something I stand for. So I definitely put volunteer work in that.
Sandra, I have a question. I have listed my volunteer work, but it's probably still basic. I'm currently reaching out to non-for-profits to offer my service for free.
Anything is better than nothing. If you've got it in there, even if it's basic, you've started to turn yourself into a human being, in my eyes, instead of just a series of text on a page. And anything that turns you into a human being means I'm going to invest more time into understanding you, because I want to see if you're a great fit for my company. So even if it's basic, get it on there, because it's going to show me that, you care about things outside of work.
I think I spoke with Nishad, I think, recently, and he told me about the website called Raise the Hand.
I've not seen that.
Yeah, so I haven't registered it, but there is the website called Raise the Hand, and you can put your skills put your skills on, and like if you're volunteering, like, and someone can pick you based on the skills. Are you laughing at the comment? I saw the comment coming in. Oh.
I'm a software developer. We're even less human beings than that.
Okay, I'm the most human being here because I produce content. Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, people don't hire CVs; they hire people. And that getting that emotional connection, even making a joke like that, like honestly, that's perfect, because I feel that emotional connection with you now, because I feel that empathy of, I felt that way about being a software developer previously. So even making a joke like that is great.
Yeah, I always feel like, maybe I need an accountant.
That's a really great comment, Nigel.
Nigel, thank you. Yeah, because we couldn't see your name from here, Nigel. So here we go. Great example, but sometimes, again, I'm talking about the LinkedIn content again, but sometimes like even making this LinkedIn post like this. If you make a LinkedIn post like this, I'm not I'm an accountant, I'm not a human being. And you can get a lot of tractions.
You can. Definitely.
100%.
Yep.
So, Andrew, we need to wrap it up because, so we're getting over 45 minutes now. So, guys, thank you so much for your participation and great comments. As we mentioned, Andrew have a bit of a giveaway for those who've been commenting and participating in our live discussion. So I think you have a link here. Here we go.
Yeah. So I put a few tips and tricks around how to kind of do your CV on your LinkedIn profile. So there's some stuff on there for that.
So everyone who commented today during our live discussion, I'm gonna send you this link, so then you can actually review your resume.
Yeah, definitely. And Nigel, for making such a good comment. If you want to reach out to me, I will give you a free CV check where I'll go through your CV and your LinkedIn profile and give you some very specific advice if you want.
Nigel, make sure leave the comment with you, or just contact me on LinkedIn, because you're not connect. I don't think you connected me on LinkedIn. Just make sure connect with me on LinkedIn so we can actually give this giveaway to you.
Me too.
So we have one more comment. Have a great, first of all, socializing from whole kind of network. Second of all, sharing opinion with integrity from each other, and then you will find your job you want someday. What do you think, Andrew, about that?
It's back to what we were talking about earlier of, just making sure that you put your opinions out there, you get known as who you stand for. What do you want your personal brand to be? because getting your personal brand out there is the best way to find a job, because people are going to be approaching you without you having to approach them.
100%. And that's the easiest way to find a job.
Yeah, it is. It is. That when people come to you, you're doing the best job you possibly can about letting people know who you are and what you stand for.
100%. The Penny saying thank you as well. Nigel has connected us on LinkedIn. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Great questions. Obviously, it's a burning topic at the moment. So thank you so much for joining me and Andrew tonight. And just want to remind you, of course, that I'm doing this weekly. And we have another guest at 5:30 p.m. on next Wednesday. My next guest will be Carol. Carol is a copywriter. She actually works a lot with IT industry. It's all about IT here today. But she will be talking about how to write an elevator pitch for your business. As we notice, the elevator pitch for your business, and then you sell yourself. There's definitely some few similarities there. So
I was just thinking that you should do an elevator pitch for yourself as well on your LinkedIn profile.
So guys, even if you don't have a business, we'll be talking more about business with Carol next week. But to be honest, even if it's you don't have a business and you want to do elevator pitch just more for yourself, I definitely recommend to join me next week. I did the interview with Carol before. She's great. She just so the way she writes things, and like she's getting straight to the point. And I think it's really important to make sure that you cut through straight to the point. And as we mentioned before, putting your skills before the see more section, and be really clear what you're trying to achieve. So that's next week with Carol, with elevator pitch. And the week after, we're going to talk about SEO tips. So anyway, I know it's all fancy stuff. Anyway, guys, thank you so much again for watching us. I hope to see you next week. And Andrew, last word from you.
Focus on your impact, not your responsibilities.
Oh, I have to put this thing again, yeah?
It's honestly my number one tip, and I just love this image because it gets the point across so well. I don't even need to say anything. So thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed this chat, Yana.
Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
See you guys.